Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com. Welcome to the reprehensibles, to the unauthorized, to the VFM, to the dread ilk, and as always, to the bears. So there have been some interesting and troubling developments around the world today and yesterday. And what occurred to me is that what's happening is really the same thing all over the place. And what's happening is that the bureaucracies of the West are being weaponized against the people and politicians of whom the bureaucracies do not approve. And so, for example, we already know what happened to Donald Trump with the deep state. We already know that the federal agencies were essentially declaring war and attempting to institute a unlawful and even treasonous coup against the duly elected president of the United States. Yesterday, Jared Taylor, the white identitarian, was stopped in Zurich. He was on a flight to Stockholm, and he was informed that someone in Poland had put in a complaint against him, and it was preventing his travel into the Schengen area, which is most of Europe. And so what we're seeing is that the bureaucracies are actually targeting individuals and attempting to harass individuals all across the West. And so, when you see what Facebook is doing, when you see the anti-Brexit coup that is undermining popular democracy in the United Kingdom, what we're seeing is a total breakdown of the social and political order. And it's being done in the name of people who can't win they can't win fairly in the field of politics. And so what they're doing is they're attacking people all over the place. And the only way to strike back against these people is also outside the political arena. And that is going to lead directly to bloodshed all over the place. What are you going... See, this is what's so ridiculous about it, is that they believe that people are not going to fight back against this. They believe that people are just going to, what can I do? Well, guess what they can do? They can do an awful lot, and they can do it directly and specifically to the people who are attacking them and harassing them and preventing them from being able to live their lives, work their livelihoods, and so forth. And this is coming directly from people like Ben Shapiro, who, if you recall, was running around talking about how we should hunt down people that he disagrees with and make them lose their jobs and stuff. Well, you know what's going to happen is that someone is going to lose their job because of something that Ben Shapiro or one of these other talking heads did, that they focused on them, they targeted them, they got them disapplied, they got them disemployed, and they're going to, the people who are responsible for that behavior are going to deserve the reactions that they are going to provoke. If you want to know the real reason that Ben Shapiro surrounds himself with security, it's not because people are anti-Semitic. It's because he is directly attacking people's livelihoods. You know, I am going to be sending him a letter. My lawyers have already drafted a letter demanding that he recant and apologize for falsely accusing me of being a, I quote, outspoken white supremacist. That is a total lie. Even my worst SJW enemies, even Bleeding Cool, which is a very, very hardcore SJW comic site, came out and said, you know, we looked into you seriously. We dug deeply into you, and we determined that you are not a white supremacist. So why is Ben Shapiro running around calling me one? Because he's attempting to proactively, preemptively defend his book. Because his book is totally false. And he knows that I will disprove it. His whole argument about Judeo-Christian values and his whole ripoff of Leo Strauss talking about Jerusalem and Athens is false. And I will demonstrate that. And so, and if Shapiro doesn't recant, we've already got all the screenshots showing that he broadcast that message into the United Kingdom, which has defamation laws that are much, much less sympathetic to the defendant than the California defamation laws. And so we're going to prove that the little liar not only slandered me, not only lied, but knowingly, intentionally, and maliciously defamed me. And so Blockchain Millionaire says, why is white supremacist negative? Because if they can establish that you're a white supremacist, then the bureaucrats can target you and do little things like get you kicked out of the Schengen area. That's a negative thing, wouldn't you agree? You know, all of your stupid little theoretical, well, what's the matter with that, is pretty irrelevant when it comes to the point where someone like Jared Taylor is getting pulled off a flight, prevented from doing prevented from doing his job, and then is sent back to the United States against his will. So, people have to stand up to these people. They have to stand up to these liars, and they have to force them to back down. Interestingly enough, that whole incident with Bleeding Cool actually happened because they were retracting their original accusation that I was a white supremacist. I emailed them, said, that's not true. Retract it, and they promptly did. That's when, in fact, the reason that the editor wanted to do that extensive 17,000 word interview was because he didn't believe it. He didn't want to have to retract it. So he looked into it, looked into all my writings, looked into all this sort of everything he could, and realized, you know what? It isn't true. And it's not. It's never been true. So, but the point is that people need to stop supporting these fake conservatives, these fake right. And so, and these people who are attempting to use the bureaucracies, who are attempting to weaponize the bureaucracies, need to be stopped. Okay, that's amusing. Shapiro actually referred to this book as his magnum opus. It's like 173 pages long. It's hilarious. But, it may well be his magnum opus because it's probably about the best that he could do. I've told you before, he's not particularly smart. He's not very well read. And so it's very important that we refuse to accept these things and take these things standing down. I just learned today that YouTube was lying to all the bears. Listen to this. This is from the blog. This woman says she's grateful for my advice to go ahead and get a premium subscription to unauthorized TV. Just a side note, those of us who super chatted him in January and February, they flat out lied about refunding people's super chat monies. I received 2 emails from YouTube saying the super chats would be refunded, but they never were. So I contacted them again and got the response of, super chats on YouTube are completely voluntary and are non-refundable. So I mean, we are living right now in a world of lies. And the only defense for it is to relentlessly tell the truth. The only defense for it is to tell the truth every single time you open your mouth. Crazy Life says, so many young kids support Shapiro who have no clue. But that's why they're targeted. Because anybody who's got more sense than the average college age kid isn't going to fall for a charlatan like Shapiro. Even Peterson has to prey upon the low status ones, because those are the only people who are unhappy and miserable enough to listen to him. And, they're also the only people who are delusional enough to get all caught up in, oh, this guy, he seems to agree with me, therefore I'm okay. Happy, normal status adults don't fall for that kind of stuff. MD Erickson, you're missing the point. He says, you can request a refund in the emailed invoices they sent you. Yes, the woman did. And she got back a note saying that they were non-refundable. That's the point. You're wrong. Telling the truth does matter. It absolutely matters. That's what allows you to defeat them. But you still have to do it. You can't just, so many people want to take the easy way out. They want to avoid the conflict. They can't. Yes, MD Erickson, some people have got things back, but most of them are not. The vast majority have not. Boingo Bear says, who is backing these fake conservatives from the beginning? Well, in the case of Shapiro, it was his father. His father was trying to establish Shapiro as some sort of child prodigy from the beginning. And I mean, he's like the original helicopter parent. And then right now, Shapiro is primarily being backed, if I recall correctly, by some Texas Christian Zionists who think that if they give Shapiro lots of money, that God will bless them. It's the usual confused Christian thinking that because of the verse that says blessing those who bless Israel means that you should treat Jews as if they're Jesus, which is so ludicrously wrong that it's almost embarrassing. So anyhow, it's BCR says, you can tell who's being managed because they are strikingly weak when even a little bit off message. Yeah, no question. Yeah. So anyhow, it's, there's a lot to do. There's a lot to do. Do you think Shapiro believes he's a highly intelligent child prodigy, or is he aware of his limitations? He's aware of his limitations, but he still thinks that he thinks he's smart enough to be able to hide them from most people. The reason that he specifically targets Milo and I is because he knows that both Milo and I see through him. Vox, what are your thoughts on just banning trolls and not even acknowledging that you ban them? Well, that's normally what I do. I mean, I just recently had to finally turn moderation on my blog that I've had since 2003, because there were a couple gamma trolls who just would not accept the fact that they'd been banned. Every single comment that they made would get deleted and so forth, but they just kept doing it. And at one point, this one incredibly obnoxious little, I mean, seriously, this is why in a perfect world, when high school ended, gammas would just be taken out and shot. I mean, there is literally, I have no toleration for them in my organizations at all anymore. They're just absolutely not worth the trouble. All they do is cause distraction and create problems. And so the minute that, and I'll tell you this right now, if you guys, if you're a gamma and you email me with like, oh, I love what you're doing and I really want to help and that sort of stuff, I just delete your email. I don't even write back to you, because I know what a massive, useless pain in the ass you are. I know that it's only going to cause more trouble. I mean, to the extent that I actively hate people, I hate gamma males. Can't stand them. Don't ever want to talk to another one again, ever. And so, I mean, Shapiro's a good example of one. John Scalzi's another example of one. They're just absolutely horrible people that cause problems no matter where they go, no matter what they do. And so, anyhow, it's, I mean, I would like for them to get better. We've even laid out a way for them to do so. I have a Voxiversity video that is designed specifically to do that, created by somebody who managed to make that transition himself. But my gosh, so I finally had to turn on moderation, which of course is a mild pain for everybody. For everybody. Just to deal with them. And it was so funny because sure enough, one of them showed up with a whining comment, because that's why I finally turned it on, because the guy had left this taunting comment saying, "It's been 5 hours and my comment still hasn't been deleted." I was just like, okay, that's it. We're going to eradicate this once and for all. And, I don't care if no one ever leaves another comment there. I'm just happy that I never have to deal with those, wretched little creatures again on the blog. Well, Nick, here's your, you have a comment. "I find this interesting. I have not noticed many gammas in my life. Could this be a sign that I'm a gamma?" I don't think that's likely a sign that you're a gamma. I think the fact that you call yourself Nick the Prick indicates that there's a good chance that you're a gamma. If you call yourself Nick the Prick, you're aggressively advertising the fact that you're an annoying person that you know you're an annoying person, and you're so defensive about the fact that you're an annoying person that you are, aggressively establishing that as your identity. And that, if that's true, if that's what you mean by that, and it doesn't have some other possible meaning that I'm not correctly identifying, then there's your indication. There's your sign. Let's see. Anyhow, Boingo Bear says, if something puts me off, I just move on. I can't understand why gammas waste so much time. Well, that's what normal people do. That's what deltas do. That's what alphas do. That's what sigmas do. A long time ago, years and years ago, John Scalzi said that he didn't want me to comment on his blog anymore. I said, okay. And I never did. Not once. I basically stopped reading it altogether. But I definitely never left another comment there. But see, gammas are accustomed, because they're low status, gammas are accustomed to being unwanted. They're used to being unwanted. And so, their whole place in the hierarchy, they live for the hierarchy. They live to try to belong. And so, they will take negative attention. They prefer negative attention as part of the group to no attention. And so, this is not a this is not a free speech zone. What percentage of men are gammas, would you say? I'd say probably about 15%. Given that you consider Shapiro a false conservative, what do you think are the most important values for conservatives, right-wing people to have? Well, first of all, there's an important difference. Conservatives conserve nothing. Conservatives is a philosophy of failure. It's a philosophy of defeat. But they do have the nominal objective of preserving the status quo. Shapiro is a false conservative because he has no interest in the status quo whatsoever. He is a racial global imperialist, a racial supremacist and a global imperialist. He believes that the race to which he belongs is chosen, is special, is superior to all others. He believes that it should rule over the world, and he believes that it should use the U.S. military to do so. That's why he endorses war in Syria. That's why he probably favors war in Venezuela. That's why he publicly called for war in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Egypt, Syria, Pakistan. That's why he called for the ethnic cleansing of the West Bank and Gaza. That's not a conservative position in any way, shape, or form. I've got gammas as part of my following, and that's fine. Some of them are trying to do better. I know who some of them are. I don't ban them. I don't treat them badly. I know they're trying. They're doing what they can, and I fully support that. But, even they have issues that if a line gets crossed, then they're going to behave in the way that gammas do. But again, it's not the social status that is the most relevant point. It's the behavioral patterns. And so when you know what the behavioral patterns are, like, for example, I knew how Jordan Peterson was going to respond, and that he was going to be making weirdly clumsy mistakes after that incident with Cambridge University, because he's a gamma. And gammas have these meltdowns when they experience public humiliation and rejection. See, this is like totally retarded. I think the hierarchy is kind of stupid, even though it does exist. I just talk to people who I like and work well with. Well, that's nice. But you know what? It's not about you. What do you do when people don't work well with you? What do you do when you find yourself in a situation that just talking to people you like and work well with isn't an option? Did you ever think about pulling your head out of your navel long enough to consider the possibility that you might not always be in a socially optimal position? It's not about, well, if everything is going great, then you don't need it. Yeah, your average alpha doesn't need to understand this stuff. In fact, your average alpha doesn't even really get it. How do you attract girls? Oh, man, just be yourself. How do I get people to listen to me? I don't know. Just show up and talk. Really useful, isn't it? So, your whole Delta approach of I just talk to people I like and work well with. Yeah, that's not an option for everybody most of the time. I have 150 IQ. The average person is 20 points below the communications gap with me. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to function when the average person that you have to deal with on a regular basis sounds like this? That's what most people talking sounds like to me. They come up and, seriously, the questions that I get, I try to take them all seriously. I try to answer them all. But a number of them are just flat out retarded. It's okay. You got to deal with people where they are. You've got to speak to people in the language that they understand to the best extent that you can. But, to just say, well, I'm not going to pay any attention to it. I'm just going to talk to people that I like and work well with. Great. That limits my ability to communicate and talk to about what? 1.5% of the population? That seems like it would be effective. Travis Moss said, Vox, you're 100% right about Peterson's fans being gammas. He specifically writes to them. If you read his book, he's writing to the low-status lobsters. So one of my former friends who exhibits most gamma traits refused to listen to me after telling him the truth about Jordan B. Peterson, even saw him live. I'm not surprised at all. No, for the 567th time, the male social hierarchy is not translatable to females. The clue would be in the part that says the male social hierarchy. Do you remember what we said about questions? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Why would you ever ask if a male social hierarchy is the female social hierarchy. If it was transferable, if it was applicable to women, it would not be called the male social hierarchy. See, this is, and I'm not picking on you, Preacher Bear. I mean, like I said, I get asked this, I've been asked that question probably on the order of 500 times. What I don't understand is why people ask that question. Male sociosexual hierarchy. It doesn't apply to gorillas. It doesn't apply to robots. It doesn't apply to cars. And it doesn't apply to women. It applies to human men. Because that's what the hierarchy involves. Think about it. Are the cheerleaders part of the football team's hierarchy? Do the cheerleaders fit between the offensive line and the linebackers? No, they're not part of it. So, and people have said, well, can you address the, no, there are not parallels between, it's fun. The rules are fundamentally different. The rules are intrinsically different. I don't know what they are, but I know they have something to do with physical appearance. They have something to do with social rank. The husband, the social rank of the husband, boyfriend, father all play an important role. Wealth appears to play a more important role, and also how they present themselves, how they dress. But I don't know. I don't know how those things balance out. I don't know. Is it, I don't know. It's not always the prettiest girl. It's not always just the looks. I've seen that. I know that. But I don't know how it balances out. I don't know where, the fact that you're the wife of a CEO gives you a certain status. But, no, I'm not really that interested in it. So, but I just, let's see. What do you think of British actor Charlie Hunnam praising Jordan Peterson and calling him? I don't. I really don't care what actors do. They're not very smart. It's fine. There too many of them are way caught up into the whole world of Hollywood perversion. JS says your video on rhetoric and dialect was eye-opening. Thanks, but honestly, all I'm doing is passing on what Aristotle wrote 2,400 years ago, or whatever it was. Mr. Tweel says, see, folks, Vox will say that he doesn't know when he doesn't know. He isn't going to BS like Peterson. No, it's kind of funny. Someone once accused me of always claiming to be right, or never being willing to admit when I didn't know something. And I was actually very pleased to see how quickly my readers leaped to my defense and pointed out that the reason people believe that about me is because I absolutely stubbornly refuse to take a position if I don't have any sound basis to do so. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I prefer to keep my mouth shut. I prefer to say absolutely nothing. And so, of course, if you only speak out when you are highly confident that you know what you're talking about and you're going to be correct, people make the mistake of thinking that you think you're always right. It's like, no, not at all. I just know not to open my mouth on subjects that I don't know about. Even something like evolution by natural selection, I was very hesitant to express any sort of opinion at all until I started reading up on it and actually talking to various biologists and so forth. And I realized how little they knew and how unable to address sensible questions they were. Anomanda Rake says we're in a cold race war. I think to a certain extent, yes, that is a reasonable description. Oh, that guy says Logos is rising. Logos is also plummeting at a faster rate. Well, yeah, I think it depends on the person. Maniac Bear says, Vox, I think you come from a place of truth, logos, and intelligence. This intimidates people because they think you're overconfident, but they may just not understand you. Well, the real reason is that people project. Most people project themselves on others. And so when you see someone like a Ben Shapiro, who is maintaining this pretense, it's totally normal. It would be totally normal for Ben Shapiro to think that I am posturing. But because we have a history of being at WorldNet Daily together, and because he's so familiar with my older work, he knows that I'm not BSing. And he knows that I'm not posturing. I'm not striking any poses. And so, and what I have to give him with regards to this new book is that even though it's nonsense and even though it's full of lies, he did do a credible effort of researching it. I can understand why he would consider it his magnum opus. There is a pretty solid amount of basic research into the history of political philosophy, but that just damns his intentionality. He can't claim not to have known any better. He did know better. And that's what makes the book even more intrinsically dishonest. I have become a gamma, but was once either a high-ranking beta or alpha. Can you shift roles? Yes. That's what life does to you. As you have new experiences, as you are, move into different social groups and play different social roles, it will have an impact on your social status in the hierarchies, and it will over time affect your behavioral patterns. Any thoughts on J.G. Ballard? No. Happas are beautiful and angry people who will one day get their own ethno-state. Isn't that the Philippines? No, I'm not aware of Chuck Missler. I haven't read WorldNet Daily in a long time. John, I wouldn't say that I'm purely honest. But I try to be honest. I think that one of the reasons that people are drawn to both Owen Benjamin and me is because both of us strive to be truthful. I wouldn't say that we always succeed, but we try hard. And it's not always easy. Let's see here. Travis Moss says, if Peterson or Shapiro debated you, would that guarantee a quick end to their careers? I don't believe so, because I think that people would find excuses for them. They would come up with some sort. If you look, Sam Harris got beaten in every debate he ever took part in, except for his debate with Jordan Peterson. Sam Harris is a terrible, terrible debater, and yet he actually did very well against Jordan Peterson. So that shows you how bad Jordan Peterson is. And yet Sam Harris, his career's been fine, despite the fact that he got trounced again and again and again and again. And so, I've debated people, an economist in particular, and I completely trashed everything that he said. He said nothing new. All he repeated was standard free trade boilerplate. I correctly dismissed it all. I also made a case against free trade based on my labor mobility argument that he had no ability to even begin addressing. And yet, there were still people who were talking about how he had kicked my ass and I had no answers for him. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, and it's one of the reasons why I don't bother doing debates anymore. If I was going to do a debate, I would vastly prefer a written one, just because it's much harder for people to try to talk around you. Scott says, I'm not very smart, and I genuinely think I could beat Sam Harris in a debate. I genuinely believe you could. Shapiro is a total lightweight. All he can do is talk quickly. When should we look to marry? Girls should start around the age of 18, and guys should start probably around the age of 24. People can objectively agree on facts, but differ on normative prescriptions. We're not talking about that stuff. The debating part in the glass bead game was my favorite part. Yeah, it's a great book overall. I like the game design part myself. How would you describe when you win a debate and then they project hypocrisy to you? I don't know. I don't really know. Is Jordan Peterson about to get destroyed by that Slavic guy? I would assume so. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and hit the super chats, but I'm going to answer this question. Can you clarify your view on free speech? What is there to clarify? Free speech is an anti-Christian weapon. It's merely a rhetorical tactic. Do you actually want blasphemy laws? Yes. Christian blasphemy laws are vastly preferable to the secular blasphemy laws that we have now. Carolyn, you're wrong. She says, I like Sam Harris. Well, Sam is a fairly likable guy. I like Sam Harris too. I think he has some good ideas. No, he does not. I think he's a fairly honest person with good intentions. I would say that he's less dishonest than most of his kind. How can I shift my gamma ways? I have trouble accepting this society. What is there? What do you mean you have trouble? That's like saying I have trouble accepting gravity. You don't have a choice. Society is. Deal with it. My brothers are making life gains and I'm not. That's because you are having trouble accepting reality. So stop lying to yourself. How do you shift your gamma ways? First, stop lying to yourself. Secondly, stop lying to other people. Would you debate Destiny? No. He is a gamma social democrat that is known for being the best debater on YouTube. That's like being the smartest guy on the short bus. But I can't stand him. I would love to see you destroy him. Again, I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. Why would I want to destroy somebody that I don't know and have never heard of? You know, if you want to read the kind of debates that I enjoy, read the debates on the blog. We did one debate on skepticism, another debate on inflation versus deflation. You can read the book on the free trade debate called On the Existence of Free Trade, or you can read On the Existence of Gods, which is a debate with an atheist reader. That's the kind of thing that I enjoy doing. So, and it's really not relevant to most of those sort of things. All right, well, I need to do the super chats now because we've only got about 10 minutes left. Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk coming to my school, what should I ask them? I would ask them, what would I ask them? I would ask them how they think the U.S. Constitution is going to survive 80 million foreign immigrants who have no interest in or respect for the U.S. Constitution. Is Lauren Chen a good source or a neocon? I don't know who Lauren Chen is, so I couldn't tell you. Pale Rider Bear says, the white thing is just weird. My family is 75% Norwegian heritage, and in summer working construction, our skin gets darker than most Mexicans. Yeah, it's kind of funny to me. As you know, I am part American Indian. Most of you would probably be very, very surprised if you saw what my brothers or my mother look like. Bears Lightyear says, how did representative democracy in the USA fail? Because the franchise was expanded. I think representative democracy was always going to fail, but the more that they expanded the franchise and subvert the representatives. David Luscombe says, I'm self-publishing a comment on this, subjugators.co.uk. So check it out, subjugators.co.uk. Irish Energy just says, here's €5. Thank you. Lucius Quinctius Cincinnatus says his book is titled The Right Side of History, even though he tweeted a few years ago that the phrase was intellectually lazy. Well, now you know. Community Bear said, never gave Ben Shapiro a dime. My BS meter goes off with him. Very wise. Starliner says, just ordered the Collier Junior Classics and the Histories as a recommendation from a previous video. Any others you would recommend as a starter kit? I would say get some of the Penguin classics like Caesar's Commentaries, Di Bello Gallico, Sun Tzu, Machiavelli. Get the classics. K-Clip says, no refund for me. Also interesting how the Cypriot invasion is never discussed by the media, politicians, and Turkish atrocities threats are ignored. Yeah, I remember Cyprus used to be a big deal in the news back in the early 80s, and now you just never hear about it at all. It's very strange. Fuad Muhammad says, what are your thoughts on Noam Chomsky? Interestingly enough, and I would love to find this if anyone can figure this out, but Noam Chomsky was on the MIT campus back in the 60s. And I am told that he actually did a debate with my father. Now, I don't know if this was like a public debate or he was there speaking and they ended up having an impromptu debate later. But I would be very interested in I know that it happened, but it'd be very interesting if there was ever any recording of that. Anyhow, he's one of those guys who's he's very intelligent, but he lacks wisdom. Again, it's the absence of logos does you in. Wisdom, intelligence is not a substitute for wisdom or for knowledge or for experience. Temujin says, I think little Benny might be an Omega. We've never seen pictures of his kids. Oh, I don't think so. I mean, his behavior patterns are much more Gamma. How many Rogans long is Ben Shaquiro's nose? I think it's at least half a Rogan. So, is it possible for someone to brainwash another male into a desired rank on the social-sexual hierarchy? No. NC Rid, will you do a native rain dance live on stream? No. Jordan Peterson's hot cousin. I'm sorry, that name, it makes me laugh every time. Jordan Peterson's hot cousin says, thank you for the nuggets of wisdom you have shared about non-nationals in Western countries. It's scary at first, but now I feel comfortable with what is to come and what needs to be done. It's what will be will be. It's not up to me, it's not up to you, but we can influence what happens around us by speaking the truth, by being good to people, and by treating people well. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it certainly improves your odds. Maniac Bear says, as a master storyteller, I'll stop you right there. I think I'm a pretty good novelist, but I'm definitely not a master storyteller. That's like John C. Wright territory as far as I'm concerned. Or my friend Daniel, who is the greatest storyteller I've ever heard. Do you have any thoughts on the Incredible Hulk and his transformation into a huge alpha monster by way of the gamma ray? I mean, that is kind of funny, isn't it? But, a lot of comics, including the Hulk, are basically gamma wish fulfillment. Movies are gamma wish fulfillment. Sam Prochansky said, how would loans work in the absence of usury? They wouldn't. It's somewhat telling to me that Christ associated readily, as I understood it, with prostitutes and tax collectors, but physically attacked usurers. I don't think there's any significance to that because the money changers in the temple, it wasn't just usurers. They were actually, I think they were more involved in selling the sacrifices and stuff. But yeah, the love of money is the root of all evil. Was Darth Vader low-key the good guy? No, he wasn't. Keeping in mind that I've never seen anything newer than The Phantom Menace. I saw The Phantom Menace on the night that it came out, and I've never seen another Star Wars product ever since. Love the first 1.5 movies. Tolerated the second half of Empire Strikes Back. Tolerated Return of the Jedi, but Phantom Menace was just too much. Totally unwatchable. So, okay, good. So we are all caught up with those. Good deal. Yeah, I mean, Islam has loans without usury. I mean, the way that the Bible talks about doing it is, just every 50 years there's a jubilee and all debts are canceled. So, Gran Torino says, "Hi Vox, trying my best to speak with Logos here in Ireland. Would live stream with you and pierce the malaise. OSS live chat." Yeah, I'm not doing media and new media anymore. It tends to take too much time, and you, especially with the media, usually ends up going badly. So I think the best way for me to communicate with people is here. The unauthorized is going to be adding some new features very soon. We are going to be able to stream directly from there, including chat. And so I would definitely encourage you to, if you're not already at least paying attention to unauthorized.tv, that you start to do so, because I think you're going to see Owen and I and others increasingly moving more and more over there. Just because, we can't trust YouTube to be reliable. Scott says, if race is just skin color, how do you explain the differences in IQ, bone structure, etc., and why are the Europeans very similar? Race is not just skin color. That's just that whole, the differences are only skin deep is so deeply and totally ignorant that you would have assumed that it had to be purposeful. Will unauthorized have a notification system? Eventually, but it doesn't yet. Unauthorized TV with live stream and members only? Yes. We don't know about the members only stuff yet. It'll have it eventually, but this is a process. We're not going to get there immediately. Serious Bear says, I am banned and unauthorized. Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the massive extent that to which you guys and especially the Bears have been supporting unauthorized. I mean, we're up past I believe 2,200 subscriptions now. I mean, we have a long way to go, obviously, before we can even begin to approach the level of subscriptions on YouTube and so forth. But imagine what it's going to be like when we have 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 subscribers there. It's going to be absolutely massive. It's going to really shake things up. What we're doing there is building something that's going to make a very serious difference. So, when you ban people, could you play a soundbite of Owen saying, "Now you're banned for life"? Yeah, we'll have to work on that. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. Wait, a quick question here. Are you still working on Alt Hero? Absolutely. Alt Hero Q #1 is going to be out next week. So, we're working on this all the time. So, and we're going to be adding new stuff incessantly. I mean, I'm talking to 3 new creators already. We're going to be adding a cooking program. We're looking at adding a homemaking program, and we want to turn it into something that is fundamentally important to our goal of maintaining and preserving Western civilization. So anyhow, thank you so much for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you over on the Unauthorized. And I forgot to mention, Owen has his new exclusive special, The Art of the Horse, which is his appearance in Denver. And it's exclusive to unauthorized.tv, and it is available to all subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed yet, do so and check it out. Look forward to seeing you the next time. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.